Hello, everyone. I have an amazing book to be able to present to you today. And we have the Alison Shamir here with Conquer Your Imposter. This book is an absolutely game changer for people suffering from imposter syndrome, but also allowing people to understand a little bit more about what it is. Some people may have heard of it, but they may not know much about it. So welcome, Alison, to our book launch here so people can understand a little bit more about imposter syndrome and how they can maybe conquer that. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here, Susan, and can't wait.
Fantastic. So I'm going to roll off some questions so that Alison can educate us on this and also share with us a little bit about what's in her book and how it can help readers conquer their imposter. So you are a leading expert and a renowned speaker on this subject, imposter syndrome. What led you to this fascinating topic?
Well, I sort of make the joke, it's funny, not funny, that I broke up with imposter syndrome between 2013 and 2014. And, what I mean by that is I experienced debilitating imposter syndrome for about 10 years of my career, my previous life, I say, as a technology leader. So this book and my expertise now really stemmed off the fact that I experienced debilitating imposter syndrome. It really built up to extreme levels in me. It doesn't do that in everyone, but in me and in a lot of people, a lot of high performing, high achievers, it does. And it caused me to have a very significant panic attack in my office here in Sydney, Australia, back in 2013. And I didn't know at the time I was experiencing something called imposter syndrome. I just knew I had extensive anxiety. I was fixated on perfectionism. I constantly felt not good enough, not worthy enough of my success. And I carried this feeling that it was only a matter of time before everybody found out that I didn't belong in the role I was doing, which I then went on to learn was the hallmark of imposter syndrome. It's you feel like a fake or a fraud despite evidence of your competence, your success, your qualifications. And so I was very much in the midst of that. And then it had really detrimental effects on my emotional, my mental health. And I literally physically came crashing down. And I don't like to make it sound dramatic, but that moment really changed the course of my life because it allowed me to go on a hunt for information, realize I was experiencing something called imposter syndrome. Then I went down in the weeds of working out what that was and navigating out of it. And that journey thus began the new journey and led me to where I am now. So I'm being honest, I became really fixated on understanding it to help myself first and foremost. And then it turned into realizing that I could help others and then stepping out and doing this full time for myself. And obviously producing this book over the last 2 years, which has been an incredible journey and obviously the start of a new journey now, which I'm excited to share with people.
Beautiful. I love that because when we overcome something and we learn from our own experiences, it really is something that others should be grateful that people are courageous enough to share because you are being quite vulnerable in allowing people to see. And as you said, it didn't just affect you mentally, it was physically. It was something that you can help others to avoid if they're on that path to maybe not get to that severe stage or to understand it a little bit more because you didn't know what was happening. And so by sharing this in the book, it helps people recognize something that maybe took that dramatic event for it to really resonate with you. And you've gone down now this exploration and have this expertise to share with so many others. And we love that. What are the signatures of imposter syndrome, as in who does it affect and how can someone tell that they have it?
Well, imposter syndrome, it truly is a global phenomenon. I've spoken to individuals across 23 countries now, across nearly every continent in the world. So it's a global phenomenon. So it doesn't discriminate. And of course, I cover this extensively in the book. But even though it's so prevalent, it remains mysterious sometimes as well, because when we're experiencing it, the one thing we're unlikely to do is talk about it. And the reason for that is And back to the other part of your question is the hallmark of imposter syndrome is you actually feel like you're fooling everyone, like you're some kind of intellectual fake, phony, or fraud, despite, again, this is the key thing, having the evidence of your success, having the intelligence, doing the role right now, having the qualifications, earning the money. But the issue is you're not internalizing that success properly, because deep down, you don't actually believe that you are worthy or deserving of it. And that's why you push it away instead of internalizing it. And that's why you keep this feeling of, I'm a fake, I'm a fraud. It's only a matter of time before they find out I shouldn't be here. I am not good enough. So that's the key hallmark of imposter syndrome. And it creates this really tough internal conflict, because if you think about other forms of doubt or other moments of high stress in your life, often we are having stress or we are doubting things because perhaps we haven't done it before. It's something we want to do, we haven't done it, perhaps we don't have the expertise yet, perhaps it's something brand new that we want to try but we're scared to. But imposter syndrome is very different, because with imposter syndrome, you're already doing it. The irony is you're not an imposter, you're actually the real deal, but you're disconnected from taking in the evidence of your success. So it's an internal conflict, an internal battle despite evidence. And that's what makes it unique, right? Because you've got the runs on the board, you're just not taking them in. So that's the real hallmark of imposter syndrome. And then because we feel this way, it causes us to do all kinds of self-sabotaging behaviors. So some common ones are we might get fixated on perfectionism or perfectionist tendencies. Now, you can be a perfectionist without imposter syndrome as well. I also cover that in the book, but it is highly linked to imposter syndrome. Why? Because you think, well, if I'm just perfect, if I do it perfect, get a perfect result, look perfect, sound perfect, write the perfect book, and quote, no one will find out that I'm actually an imposter or a fraud. Now, again, it's not true, but it feels very real. So we hide behind perfectionism, but it works against us. It's a very dangerous cycle, perfectionism. Or it causes us to overwork and over prepare. So almost like a sister or a brother to perfectionism, we just think, well, if I do more, if I overwork, over prepare, grind myself into the ground, suck in as much knowledge as I possibly can, that's going to give me some sort of protection from being found out. But a lot of us can relate to that journey where we just end up grinding ourselves into the ground. We literally burn ourselves out, the stress goes up, our relationships suffer, our health suffers, and we still don't feel great, right? There's still no good result. So another one is avoidance. So we might be so fearful to do something that we avoid it. You've probably all heard of procrastination. That's a form of avoidance, or we just don't do it. We don't put our hand up. We don't write the book. We don't go for the promotion. We don't put our hand up to speak at the event. And that costs us opportunity. That can impact financial gain. So there are all of these ways we sabotage ourselves, and sabotage sort of gives it away. No good comes from it. We're working against ourselves. And that just, again, creates this ongoing internal conflict where we're doing good work, we're not taking it in, we constantly don't feel good enough, we're at war almost with ourselves and the dialogue and the narrative we tell ourselves, and we can't win. So the thing I want you all to know is when we're in the midst of imposter syndrome, we can't win. We're literally going around in these cycles of behavior and sort of negative self-talk, and there's no win, because the thing is, technically, you already are a winner. You've got the success. You're not taking it in. Okay, so it's not a fun place to be. The good news is, once we understand, we can break through it. But these are some of the hallmarks. Is we feel like a fake or a fraud. We're not, but we feel like we're going to be exposed or found out. And then the other parts are those behavioral aspects. And we're very good at hiding it. We're very good at keeping it in because we believe we're the only ones. But back to the beginning of your question, it's estimated around 70% of people will experience imposter syndrome. So we're in the majority, but we feel like we're in the minority. So one of the best things we can do is find somebody we trust and speak about it. That's the start. Starting a conversation around imposter syndrome is very powerful.
And having that awareness, because sometimes you can be in the midst of it like you did and don't know that's what's happening. You know it once you start thinking about, like you said, the internal talk, but I love the differentiation that you talk about, because in the sense that this isn't just being a bit fearful because you knew it. I feel like this is, you've got that evidence base, you're actually successful in the role, but you feel like you've got to do more and you've got all those credentials. So there's proof there that you aren't an imposter, but you feel that imposter. And I think there's a lot of things in the book that you have written. And like you said, there's a lot that's gone into this book to really not only explain it and have people be aware that they could be in this cycle, but also like a toolkit for the people to be able to conquer this and then have their health, both their physical health, improved. Because a lot of people they think they're suffering from anxiety, but what's that anxiety about? It could be that they're on this treadmill of trying to be better and they've already proven it. No one else is seeing them as an imposter. It's them. Everyone else is probably seeing them as an amazing success, but they're not seeing themselves. And I love the way that you bring that awareness and that education as the expert on this matter, and some tools that you give people inside the book. What will the reader get out of this book for themselves?
Yeah, thank you for that. And I think you're right. This book really is a toolkit, and it's written, something I wanted to share is the book is written in a particular way to take the individual, and look, it really is, it is a journey, because imposter syndrome is a journey that we're all on, and overcoming it and conquering it, it's not just what you do, it's the order in which you do it in. And I cannot stress this enough for overcoming imposter syndrome. So, because its foundations, its real hold on us is really anchored in our perception of ourselves, our self-worth, before we get to confidence and self-esteem, which are also in the book and super important, as is self-awareness, which you've mentioned in these other things. But we start with self-worth, and how we value ourselves and perceive ourselves is really this foundational element of imposter syndrome. And so to overcome imposter syndrome and to conquer it, we have to rattle its foundations, right? So it's this notion of we need to look at the root cause, not the symptoms, which I know is a sort of popular but very relevant analogy here. And so with imposter syndrome, we need to look at identity, we need to look at self-worth, and we need to look at these stories that we tell ourselves that form beliefs that we hold. So stories and beliefs, self-worth, identity, if we look at this sort of trilogy of elements. And that's why in the book, I cover all of these elements extensively in chapters 1 to 3. So I really set you all up, if you read the book or are interested in my work, that it is written in an order to allow you to just think about chipping away at it. So by the time you're halfway through the book, you'll literally have weakened the foundations of imposter syndrome. And that's really important, because what happens if we weaken the foundations of something? The rest comes crumbling down if we do it well. And it's the same sort of phase here. So lots of talk in market is around with imposter syndrome. People like to come in at the level of the negative voice in your head. People often refer to terms like inner critic, or the negative voice in our head is very common. I think we can all relate and understand that. And it's very important when it comes to imposter syndrome, but it's actually down the chain, right? So even in my book, Imposter Thinking, which is the name of chapter 5, is not till chapter 5. Okay. And so my book is 10 chapters long. So we don't even get to thinking. We don't even get to what you're thinking until we are 50% of the way through the book. So hopefully that shares with anyone watching this that it's super important, but it's down the chain. Okay, so we need to look at those foundational aspects, and that's really the power, Susan, how much thought I put into writing this book in the order, because I need to take the reader and anyone who's interested in imposter syndrome, perhaps learning about it, or if you believe you're experiencing it, again, it's not the information you digest, it's the order in which you digest it that makes a profound difference. That's how we truly unlock the change. If we skip ahead a few steps, it's like cheating on anything. If we try to get ahead, unfortunately, it dilutes it. It dilutes really breaking through the hold that imposter syndrome has. So that's something that I'll share, and something I put a lot of time and thought into, not just my opinion, of course, in the work that I've done all around the world and the tools that I use with high-performing, high achievers across multiple different cultures and countries. And that's something I wanted to highlight. It's a global phenomenon, as you asked me earlier, and in comes cultural nuances and how our behaviors impact us and how we grew up and how we were influenced. So although all the tools in the book and everything I've shared, I've chosen those because they're obviously evidence-based, science-backed, they're proven, they work, but they've been tested cross-culture. That's a big thing because we're not all identical, of course, of where we grew up, how we grew up, culture, religion, ethnicity, socioeconomic status. So I want everyone to know that no matter where you are in the world, that based on my work across more than a decade, these tools have been tested and they work. And that's why they were selected so carefully when writing the book. Because as Susan, you know, all of us who write books, we could write encyclopedias. We could keep writing and writing until wonderful teams like yourself cut us off, right? Which is one of the biggest challenges I know we'll get to, but it was about what doesn't go in the book. What's there to drive meaningful change for whoever reads it? Versus, oh, let me just put everything in, because then it would have been an encyclopedia and that wouldn't have been that fun to read either.
And I think you're right, leading on to the process of what you took to get into the book, is that even though it is still quite a decent book that they get to read, and every chapter has its purpose, which I love, that they're going through a journey and conquering the imposter as they go through with the foundations. And I absolutely love that. But it's true, you want people to read it because that's where they're going to make that change. And if it's too big, we'll never get through it. But the great thing is you can just do it one chapter at a time, go through it, get to the end and really conquer your imposter. And I think you've touched on a bit how that, a world without imposter syndrome, what would it look like? But more so, how could overcoming this transform someone's life or the society? Because if someone is individually, this conquering their imposter can absolutely change their life in so many ways. How have you seen with some of the clients you've worked with that have gone through this process of where they were and what change it's had for them in their life by conquering their imposter?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is why I was so passionate about sharing some of my client stories in the back of the book as well. And I'm very big on putting out testimonials and the stories that my clients will allow me to share, because also imposter syndrome is a deeply personal journey. So I'm very grateful for the stories I was able to share in the book and all the people that thousands of individuals I've spoken to across the years, and really hearing again these more core testimonials, because it is life-changing. And overcoming imposter syndrome has been described as that. And if I can just, using even myself as a case study, there is no way that I would be where I am today if I had not conquered my own imposter syndrome. And for me, I was able to eliminate it entirely. For others, they're able to wrestle clear control of it. So to answer that first is, conquer to me is a very powerful word, but what conquer means is control. Right? Yes, conquer has the connotation that we go into battle, these sorts of things. We want to win against whatever we're trying to conquer. And that works very well in this space with imposter syndrome. Like any fear or doubt, we want to take control of it. We want to pull the levers. We want to be in control. And that's what conquering means. So for some of my clients, they conquer imposter syndrome entirely. Like, it's gone, right? Of course, they have other fears and doubts. We all do, right? Every human being on the planet experiences self-doubt. All of us have fears, whether they're real present fears, psychological fears, a combination of both. And majority of us will experience imposter syndrome. Not all of us, but a big chunk of us, right? So it's really important to understand and get a handle on that. And when we do, we're able to unlock our true potential. So clients of mine who have eradicated and conquered imposter syndrome, they've gone on to not only keep excelling in their careers, but to become speakers about their industry, to write books, to stand on global stages. I have a client who's a senior medical doctor. Her story, her testimonial is in the back of the book. I helped her understand, overcome and conquer her imposter syndrome. She's gone on to write books. She's a professional speaker herself now. She's launching her own programs to help other medical doctors lead from what she calls the heart, stop experiencing burnout. The transformation has been amazing. Now, I'm not taking credit for all of her success, but certainly I helped her in terms of navigating the imposter syndrome. So that's a huge win. I have another client who's a very senior marketing director of a global technology company. She was was receiving all of these promotions, often as you do with imposter syndrome, discounting the success, believing she wasn't worthy, playing small in the role. And she was looking after the entire Asia Pacific region, which was huge for this organization. I'm talking every Asian country, Australia, New Zealand. And when she overcame her own imposter syndrome through the work with me, she finally was able to step into that role, take full ownership and say, I am here. I have earned the right to do this. And it transformed the way not only she looked and perceived herself, which is the first tick, but then how she performed in the role by capturing going, actually, I've earned the right to be here. This is my role. This is my position. It was transformational for her, right, in the perception. So that's just two examples. And then I have a couple of other clients who have taken control of the imposter syndrome, and they send me emails all the time. So a quick story is a client who's in the US, who's the head of diversity, equity, and inclusion for a major national organization. And when it shows up for her, she's able to use the tools that I have given her, my models, the tools that are in the book, to run what I call an intercept. So she's able to stop that internal narrative that's really imposter driven. She's able to bake in a little moment of space, like 5 minutes here, exiting the room, to allow the fear-based response to come down. So then she can respond rather than react. So the imposter syndrome shows up in moments, but she stamps it out really quickly. She's like, no, she has this dialogue with herself, which is like, no, I know what's happening here. I need to bake in an intercept. I call it an intercept. And she's able to take control. And I receive an email from her, which I love on my sort of dedicated coaching line. Oh gosh, probably about once every 6 to 7 weeks, where she will share a story with me and she'll say, things are great and this nearly happened in this moment, but I intercepted, I redirected, and gosh, Alison, I can't thank you enough for teaching me these tools. So the shift is profound. And the other part of your question, which I think is very important, is that although we're already successful and have the talent and these sorts of things with imposter syndrome, it is still blocking us inevitably. So me as the example, I would not be doing the work that I'm doing today, and I would not have the height of success that I have, again, with all the wonderful support I've had along the way as well, if I hadn't conquered my own imposter syndrome. Because although I would have been successful, it still would have kept me out of some of the rooms that I've had the privilege of being in, some of the stages that I have walked on. It would have kept me away from those. I would have still been on others, but not as big as those. And with that comes financial implications, not using my full talent, so on and so forth. Okay, I think we can all relate to that. It will cost us opportunity, which then impacts finances, how we want to provide for ourselves, our families, other elements. So the cost is high. And the other part, which is super important, is that it will keep us from internalizing our success, no matter how successful we become. And that has detrimental impacts on mental health, emotional health, and physical health. And some quick examples, you can all sort of go and check these out in your own time, is Justin Bieber, the fabulous Justin Bieber. Recently, in a couple of months ago, wrote a really important on his Instagram story about his struggle with imposter syndrome and how it has impacted his worth and how he feels about himself. Now, we're talking a multi-millionaire, multi-award-winning, phenomenal artist. Experiences imposter syndrome impacts him greatly. Not a great place to be. Sure, he's rich and successful, but none of that matters if we feel worthless. And I think we can all really relate to that in some way, shape, or form. There are many other talented people on the record who talk about the impacts of imposter syndrome. So I say this to all of you listening to this or watching this, is you don't want to be at the height of your success, in your gold medal moment, metaphorically or literally, writing your book or releasing your book, growing your company, whatever you're doing. You don't want to have finally achieved that and not be able to take that in and still believe that you're some kind of fake, fraud, or phony. That is not a great place to be. It has huge implications. And so back to your question, Susan, is if we don't have that, if we own our success, if we can unleash our true potential, imagine for a second what that can do, firstly, for yourself and your own family or whoever you want to provide for, whether it's just yourself or family. But imagine the impact on the people around you, on your company, on the ideas, on the innovation, on financial success, on your ability to give back, your ability to coach or lead other people. So I always say, imagine if 70% of the population wasn't holding themselves back, was owning their success and driving their talent forward. What world would we be in? Well, I mean, I know it's sort of like we don't have a crystal ball, but there would be some tremendous stuff in there, right? I think we can all go, I'd like to see more of that because
Well, no one's holding themselves back.
it's like untapped potential, right? Like, or a big sort of untapped pool, which creates a ripple, right? So we know then the rising tide, we all rise together. So even just a smidge of that, right? Even 70% of people right now experience imposter syndrome. Let's just say we got it to 50%. That's a significant shift, right? Let's say we got it lower than that. I mean, my goal is to get it as low, so with other experts around the world, as low as we can. But incremental shifts, huge impacts. I think we can all relate to that. So there's no different here with imposter syndrome. So get control of it, you're winning. Conquer it entirely, you're winning. That's really where I see myself playing in this space, is to help individuals do whatever side of that equation makes sense to them based on their individual circumstances. And the book is a great start for that because of the global insights I share.
Yep, absolutely love it. Well, it's our honor to have published this book with you, Alison, and to get it out into the world. And the links will be below for you to purchase it on different platforms. Go and grab yourself a copy. Grab yourself a copy and share it with people around your organization or even individuals. Grab a couple of copies. It's something that I think, like you said, will not only transform an individual's life, it'll transform all the people around them because it's a ripple effect, the organizations, and just the change people can make if they're not held back by this. So thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us, allowing us to help you pull this amazing book together. Jump on, grab yourself a copy, and thank you so much for having us, Alison.
Thank you, Susan. I'm so grateful to everything Dean Publishing has given me. So thank you. Great to chat as always.